Scott just made
Go
the
back to
point
Thomas
Jefferson
Jefferson, you'll
used to
read
be a
that-
lot more secure, not just enabling rapists. That's exactly what Rolling Stone magazine and so-called journalist Sabrina Rudin-Ertele have done with the UVA gang rape story. I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta. Let's bring on Scott Ott and Bill Whittle right away because this story has me angrier than I've been in a long time. Gents, Rolling Stone's blockbuster story fell apart over the last few days, forcing the magazine to issue a retraction they've had to amend twice now to get it just right because there's probably a big lawsuit coming their way. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I'd rather we talked about Jackie, the victim of Rolling Stone and of Sabrina Ertele, and still maybe a victim of something at Phi Kappa Psi. Now, at Hot Air on Monday, Allah Pundit took a look at statements made by Jackie's friends, and here's a part of what he wrote. Cindy, it's one of her friends, tells a story similar to Andy's, another one. Jackie told her that a group of men had forced her to perform oral sex but didn't identify the fraternity and said nothing about the type of gang rape described by Rolling Stone. Cindy called the RS story completely false. Jackie herself, though, told Washington Post that although the Rolling Stone account might not be accurate in all the details, it was truthful. She also claimed that she was bleeding on the back of her arm and from between her legs afterward, and that she apparently contradicted herself in first telling Washington Post that her prime attacker was a member of Phi Kappa Psi before later claiming she wasn't sure. So it seems possible, maybe even likely, that something did happen to Jackie. Now, Scott, you're a trained journalist. If you're reporting this story, is there any reason not to make every effort to contact the accused in order to get your facts straight? And if you're her publisher, would you have gone ahead with the story as Ertele wrote it?
Well, there are two things more important than the fact that I'm a trained journalist. Number two would be that I used to work for an organization called the Abuse Network that helped women who were victims of rape and domestic violence. Number one is that I'm a human. I'm a human being whose first thought isn't, wow, what a great scoop this is, and how beautifully it fits the narrative of the nasty fraternity guys who have their way with women, and what a great story this will be for me, and what a great career advancement. I think the problem we have here starts there. It starts with the arrogance and the ambition and the hubris of somebody pretending to be a journalist and editors who get sucked in. And then there's another sort of conventional wisdom narrative, which is, well, whatever a woman says must be true, so we got to go with that even without checking the facts. Any journalist worth his salt, any editor worth his salt would have stopped immediately and said, look, until we have corroboration of this story from somebody else, from some other eyewitness, until we get the other side of the story, this is a law enforcement matter. This is not a story.
All right. Now, Bill, you might be familiar with conservative Southern California artist Sabo, the creator of some, well, delightfully controversial political posters. His latest is this fake Rolling Stone cover featuring Lena Dunham and her false rape claims, Bill Clinton, and we all know the allegations surrounding him for a couple of decades now, and of course Jackie, who may or may not have been a rape victim, but whose story was ruined by Rolling Stone. So I guess my question is, what is it about the left and rape?
It's a weapon for political power. Is there anything else I need to say? In the same way that this epidemic of so-called violence against young black men, the idea that a black man can't walk the streets of America without being gunned down for no reason with his hands up, is a weapon. It's a lie that's perpetrated by the left in order to get the black vote out. The same story is being done now for women. It's all part of the war on women. It's part of the Republican war on women. It's all part of this whole thing. And if only there was some reason why attacks on women might be a valuable thing to have in your arsenal coming up in the next election cycle. If only there was some reason, somebody who might benefit, let's say, from the idea that women are under perpetual assault and only a woman president might be able to save us from this horrific epidemic of violence. It's all part of the same reason these people lie for political power. It's all there is to it. I know a little more about the Dunham case than I do about the Rolling Stone case. Dunham basically made an accusation that a guy named Barry, a prominent conservative Republican at Oberlin, who wore black cowboy boots and had a mustache and a low Barry White voice and had a radio show called Real Talk with Jimbo, raped her apparently at her house, or at least performed acts that she didn't consent to. John Nolte from Breitbart went to Oberlin and he tried to find a guy named Barry. There was nobody in Barry who was a Republican, prominent conservative. There was nobody who wore cowboy boots that were purple. There was nobody who had a big mustache. There was nobody talked in a low voice. And there's any evidence whatsoever of a radio talk show called Real Talk with Jimbo. But there was a guy who went to Oberlin named Barry who happened to be a Republican, and every single person that's researched this story has come to him and say, why did you rape Lena Dunham? Well, in the same way, Lena Dunham's publisher has now issued a retraction saying it was a pseudonym, it wasn't named really Barry. Everybody else in the book that she names by name says, it's not their real name, I'm covering their identity. So basically what happened is Lena Dunham invented a rape about a Republican because it makes her feel good and look good. The fact that an innocent person's life may be destroyed is not relevant to these people. They're Republicans. What do their lives matter? It's the exact same thing, Steve. It's the destruction of individuals for the progressive utopia. Here in America, it results in false rape charges. You let it go for the full length of its distance, and it will result in millions of people in death camps. They don't care about people. They care about power, and that's it. They'll lie, and they'll say whatever they have to keep power.
We've seen it before, folks. All right. Sabrina Rudin-Earley went from university to university shopping for a rape story to fit her predetermined narrative about fraternities. Now, I don't know what may or may not have happened to Jackie, but it seems like she may have been the victim, or she may have been the victim twice. First, possibly by members of a fraternity. The second time, certainly by a journalist with a chip on her shoulder and by a magazine without editorial discretion. So what really happened to Jackie? At this point, it's impossible to say if she even knows for sure. But other women, other victims, will see what happened to her, and some of them will decide that it's better to stay victims than it is to go to the police. Rolling Stone and Sabrina Erdely have enabled rapists. They have enabled rapists, and that we do know for sure. For PJTV, I'm Steve Green.